Right, the first thing we're gonna do here is before I chop this frame up, I have it in the jig. Use my laser, make sure everything's in the center. Got it toe cleaned down really good. I want to make sure the top motor mount stays where it's at. So I've cut a bar. Gonna tack all this in place. Just so when I chop all this frame off, this motor mount location is in the same spot, so I can come back to it later, put a gusset in there. So we'll tack that in, then get to chopping. That's just a nice Scotch-Brite pad, like a wore-out brown one. So all it does is get the paint off. It's not aggressive, it's not grinding into the metal or dimpling the metal. That way later when you go to clean up and paint it, it's going to be real nice and smooth. Okay, everything is in place now. That gusset's tack welded in really nice. I put a little structural bar on it here. The stuff is just tacked enough to where when I cut this off, I'll just have to clean a little bit of weld up. I haven't gouged in or welded in or undercut on the frame. Should be a really easy cleanup job. That should be cut enough around. So then we cut these down tubes. We should just be able to lift up on this and break it off. I should point out that on this frame, this customer wants to go up 4 and out 3. And we're keeping the same degree of rake on this frame. So I've already got the neck set up. This is where we're at. This is where we're going. That's one of the things that sucks about doing this yourself. I tried to cut it slowly so I didn't get the saw pinched in there. It didn't really pinch it, I just went through. So it's kind of hard to get it off. So we've got these cut. I've measured up 1.5 inches on each of those. Let's see if we can get this all the way off. I need to unscrew the motor mount now. There we go, finally got it cut off. Got to go in here and clean that off a little bit. We're going to replace the square backbone with a round backbone. An 1 5/8 round tubing, 125 wall should fit right in there real nice. So we can weld around those edges real good. All right, now that we have the tubing cleaned up, it's kind of nice up here because I got to clean up some of the casting marks on the frame, so that way by the time this is welded and all cleaned up, that's going to look really nice. But now we need to bend some down tubes on this bike. We're going to kind of come up and kind of gooseneck out to the neck. So what I want to do first is I want to make some slugs that are going to go inside this tubing and fit into our existing tubing. So let's go measure the wall thickness and see what we have and start machining some slugs. Okay, here we go. Got everything cleaned up. I drilled myself 2 holes in each frame tube. 9/32 for a nice plug weld. Here's our slugs. One side's turned down a little bit more. We're using a little bit thicker frame tubing on our end than what's stock. And if you see here, I machined a little 9/32 step in it, because once this slides into the existing tubing, and this is the frame tubing we'll be using, once it slides down in there, you'll see I have a little 30-second gap there. So that will help when I weld. I can get good penetration down in there, get down to the slug and fill that up really nice, and get plenty of weld in there really deep. And then with that slug, that's going to help keep all of this lined up really nice, to where when you weld it and you go to clean it up, nothing moves or nothing gets stepped, to where you don't need Bondo or anything. You can just powder coat this and look really nice. Also on our slugs, I want to point out, I had thick enough tubing to just turn it down. First of all, that hole in the middle helps to where if a guy's going to run any wiring through his frame or anything like that, he can still fish it through. And also, technically, if this was solid and you welded it with tubing, you do run the risk of the existing tubing cracking on each end of this, just because of the rigidity of your slug you've put in there. I don't think that would be the case in the thick enough tubing that we're using here, and that this frame is going to be gusseted up nice enough to not have that issue. But just a thought, you know, depending on what you are building, you know, if you do have some tubing that does flex a little bit, having a hole in the middle of it does help give your slug a little bit of flex also. Okay, we've got these bent. Perfect. We're setting down on the slugs really nice. I'm probably going to take just about a 1/2 inch out of here to bring this down just a little lower, and then we'll have to notch up here so we get these to pinch together onto the gusset. But everything's looking good. We'll go here and chamfer, clean up and chamfer that edge a little bit on the bottom of that, so that way when we start welding it, we get good penetration down in there. I'll also chamfer the frame tubing a little bit also. I'll try to show that here in a minute. But just got to get these notches correct and get these down tubes set in there pretty. Got one notch ready to go. Setting pretty on here. Time to get the other one fitted. Okay, both down tubes are fitted really nice. Obviously, before I weld them, we'll have to line them up really good before we tack them up. All right, not liking how that's fitting there on the backbone. So we're gonna do a little cutting on this and heating and splicing it together there to get a little bit tighter fit on that tubing.